Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I am honored to have Alex Bachman with me. Alex is a current NFL player with the Houston Texans, and one of the things I think you're going to hear in his story today is just how if you have determination, a desire, and a skill set to work towards what you want, it doesn't matter what anyone else says, you can still accomplish it. So, Alex, thanks so much for being on today, brother.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you having me on.
You betcha, stud. So let's start with the younger years. Talk a little bit about, growing up on the West Coast and just competitive nature that is sports, right? I mean, there may not be a state that is more competitive and talented in sports than people out in California. So talk a little bit about growing up in that and, just getting your bearings in the sports world.
Yeah, shoot, I came from a competitive family. My dad was the youngest of four brothers, and he also had a younger sister. They all played sports growing up. My one oldest uncle actually played professionally and played in the CFL as well for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, my dad didn't come from much, kind of made it out by himself. He went to the Air Force or joined the Air Force after school. And so I came from a military family.
Yeah.
So I grew up very disciplined. On my mom's side, my grandpa was a golf prodigy.
Mhm.
Um, Ended up going to Duke, and he was a team captain there, but went to medical school after, pursued that, and being a really successful surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. So I think just everything was a competition for me.
Yeah.
I I want to say I got it from my parents, but I think it was just instilled in me by God, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because my sisters, although they competed in sports, I don't think they just had the same competitive drive that I had. I mean, I look at myself as probably the most competitive person that I can think of, and I've been
Yeah.
around a lot of competitive people. So sometimes I have to kind of as I've grown older and matured, I've kind of had to realize that and figure out when it's appropriate to be competitive when it's not. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, I got into sports. My I joined a soccer league. It was supposed to be age 4 and up. I joined when I was 3, and my parents kind of maneuvered my way in, and they could tell at a young age that I was just super active.
Yeah.
I just wanted to run. I was full of energy. They needed to get me out the house. So they put me in everything they possibly could. I was doing front flips in the pool by age 3. Like I said, I was just super active, and I was pretty fearless too.
Yeah.
Um, so my dad started taking me on runs. By age 4 or 5, I was going on 2-mile runs twice a week. And I just had a natural endurance, and I think my dad could tell, or my parents could tell from a young age that sports could be in my future. It wasn't until I got to age 7 or 8 though that I really had any interest in football. Um, that came, I think, when Reggie Bush was at SC,
Yeah.
and you started to see how much attention he was kind of getting in some of the highlights he'd put together, and that was something I looked at. And I would go outside and try to mimic that,
Yeah.
and so I got put into flag football at a young age, and I didn't play tackle literally till 8th grade. My parents didn't want me to have to deal with those injuries at a young age, and it was frustrating for me because I wanted to. But looking back, I mean, all the kids that played tackle football weren't playing football for very long, and I'm still having the opportunity to play ball. So I think that's one of those things that, as we hit on, in the moment, you're kind of frustrated about something. You look back, okay, glad we did that. Uh,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I mean, I was in Taekwondo. My parents put me in everything: Taekwondo, soccer, before football, basketball. Basketball is probably my favorite sport, really, growing up. But I was probably never going to be tall enough. But it was either basketball or football was going to be my thing. And
Yeah.
um, to be honest, I think one of the reasons why was a lot of the guys on the court or on the field, there weren't a lot of guys that looked like me.
Yeah.
And I think baseball, there was a lot of guys that kind of looked like me, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
wanted to stand out. I always wanted to look different than the rest. I just took a lot of pride in that. I don't know where I got it from at all. I just wanted to be different. And
Yeah.
I wanted to do the hard things. I wanted to do the things that people were really impressed by.
Mhm.
The stuff that you'd watch growing up on YouTube. I
Yeah.
wanted that, and so I also performed on like little movies and TV shows growing up. I sang. Um, I was in the leads in my high school musicals and stuff. So I was always going, and I
Let's
think
go.
it's one of those things where it's like it just kept me out of trouble.
Yeah.
I think I would have gotten in. Knowing my personality, I probably would have gotten in a lot of trouble if I wasn't constantly going. Um,
Yeah.
but growing up in LA, I didn't realize at the time how much kind of that northern area that I grew up in was kind of a bubble.
Mm.
But sports were big. I went to Oaks Christian, huge football program. A lot of U.S. Army All-Americans. Jimmy Clausen had gone there. Then Joe Montana brought his kid in. I was his ball boy. And I mean, it was every year they were just sending guys D1.
Yeah.
And so that's, the plan was I was going to go there middle school, high school, and see what I could do with it. Uh,
So
yeah.
So let's jump into a couple things that you mentioned there. I think one of them would be, as you talk about when you go to a program that has a history of success, there's two different ways people can view that. One, oh my gosh, there's a ton of pressure because I need to keep, that level of success going. And the other is, all right, this is a great example of like what it takes to get to the next level. And I'm seeing the way, these other, 16, 17, 18-year olds are acting, what they're doing, and that's allowing them to go Division 1. So talk a little bit about, having role models in our lives or people that we can look towards to see a direction of, all right, if I do this, this is a good path to get to where I want to go.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think everyone needs some type of inspiration and some type of I think everything starts with a belief.
Hmm.
And so it's a lot easier when you see other people around you accomplishing things that you thought were, nearly impossible. I mean, you see it nowadays because it's all over social media, so you think it's really common, but the amount of people that go play Division 1 sports from high school is minimal. I think it
Animal.
might be, I think it's like 3% or something or less than that. And then from
Yeah.
eight, even less to the pros. Um, so it's a great accomplishment. It's a great feat. So but going to Oaks, it's like it wasn't a rare thing to see.
Yeah.
So you're surrounding yourself with ambitious people, successfully driven people, where I think, the things that would normally be impressive in most places aren't even really that impressive. It's just like it's the usual, it's expected almost.
Yeah.
So I think it just raises your level of motivation and my ambition. I don't know if that had anything to do. I was always, like I said, ambitious, driven,
Yeah.
and I wanted to I just wanted to be great, and I wanted to accomplish things at the highest level. My dad always told me when I was younger, there's a I think it's in Nehemiah, but there's a verse that talks about whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. And that was kind of the thing that was like kind of kept me going. Like I'm gonna go full tilt and everything,
Yeah.
and that's kind of been my personality. Is I go 100 or nothing. I don't really go halfway into anything.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't sleep well at night doing that. So if I don't feel like I can give it everything I got, then I'm probably just gonna, put my interest towards something else.
I love that.
Um, but yeah, and then going into high school, I was surrounded by a ton of talent. I mean, and that was across the board in all sports. We had a lot of really talented athletes. Michael Pittman played across from me. Matt Corral was one of my high school quarterbacks. We also had Brandon Dawkins, who went to University of Arizona. But pretty much every quarterback that started at Oaks went somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, we were kind of recruiting, and we were bringing in a lot of guys from other places. And I have no idea what conversations were had, but I would expect that some under the table verbal contract was made that the kid that if he's going to come all the way from inner city LA that he was going to play.
Right.
Um, so that was a battle that I was going to have to deal with at a young age that I didn't realize I was going up against because I mean
Yeah.
you're not used to politics. You're just used to thinking that they're just going to play the best player because we're trying to win,
Yeah.
and you realize that's not the case as you get older. On the other side of the coin, I was also having to deal with there's a lot of money coming into the school. It's a private school,
Yeah.
and a lot of boosters, and those boosters want their kids to play, or they're not
Yeah.
going to school.
Right.
I was kind of in that middle where I didn't have either one going for me.
Right.
Uh, it was frustrating because I felt like I had all the tools to play, and I made all the plays I needed to make. I caught everything that they threw my way. I got open when I needed to get open, and yet I wasn't really still given the opportunities I felt like I should have been given.
Yeah.
Um, so I learned from a young age that life's not fair,
Yeah.
really young, and that's just another one of those experiences you look back on and you wonder, like, dang, like I should have been, this should have happened or this should have happened, but I'm super grateful it didn't, because I think it taught me um I was gonna have to persevere at a young age. I was gonna fight. I had to fight an uphill battle that most kids weren't accustomed to dealing with at that, at such. I was probably 15,
Yeah.
14. So I had to get used to that early, and then I think that helped push me into college, because a lot of kids, when they get to college as athletes, that's the first time they ever have to go through any adversity.
Yes.
When you go 18 years of life without adversity, and then you get hit with it, some kids don't know how to deal with it. I actually got an acclimation period to that,
Mm.
which helped me overcome those obstacles. But yeah, I got lucky, I guess. I found the right people, went through the right doors, and somehow I made my way to play college ball, even though I didn't really get to play much in high school. I had one high school
Yeah.
touchdown, um, which I think most conversations I have, there's kids that, they work your typical 9 to 5 office job nowadays, and they're like, "You had one
Yeah.
high school touchdown." I was like
Yeah.
the star, and
Yeah.
so it's a little bit of a different journey,
Yep. Well,
but yeah,
yeah. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about that, right? Doing everything and more, even when things aren't going right. Right now, somebody listening may not have that same story of, hey, I was trying to get to the NFL. They might be in a corporate job, right? They might be in a 9 to 5. And it's like, man, I thought I was the person in line to get the promotion based on X, Y, and Z, and they promoted someone else. Well, if you don't show up and keep giving your best effort, the next time it comes around, you're certainly not going to get the promotion, right? So it's about doing the hard thing, doing the above and beyond, even when the result doesn't go your way. So talk a little bit about that. Once again, in your life, but also just someone listening that, hey, I can't necessarily relate in football, but I can relate in my corporate job.
yeah. Well, I mean, when you continue to work and perform, and things aren't going your way, at some point, somebody's going to take notice. The
Mm,
right person's going to take notice.
love that.
Not everybody's going to appreciate it.
Oh,
They're just not. That's just not the way the world works. But somebody will.
yeah.
Somebody's going to see that how you perform or how you deal with certain circumstances, and your attitude. I've always talked about attitude being one of the most important things, because that's one of the few things that we get to control in life,
Yeah.
is how we wake up, and what's our mindset, and how we treat people. And attitude's contagious.
Yeah.
And when you get around the right people, they feel that and they want to be around that.
Mm,
Um, and so I'm a firm believer. Like, I want to see good people succeed, and I think good people want to see me succeed.
mhm.
So it's just being around those right people. And all it takes is one, really. It's the same with when I was getting recruited outside of football. All I needed was one school to
Yep.
believe in you. All you need is one person. All you need is one team in the NFL to believe in you.
Yep.
And but let me tell you, one thing is, no one's gonna believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Boom.
It starts with that, because if you are trying to if you're trying to get somebody to believe like that you can do it, if you don't think you can do it, there's no chance that anybody else can think you can do it.
I love
So
that.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of my one thing, is just keep fighting, because like you mentioned earlier, if you give up on it, then there's no chance. Like,
Yeah.
you've kind of left that at what it is. And if you can live the rest of your life without any regret on leaving it, then by all means. But for me, like, I live with a no regret mentality. I'm gonna give everything I got, and like I said, control what I can control, and I'll sleep well at night doing that, whether things go my way or not, because everything outside of that is outside of my control, and I'll leave that in God's hands.
I love it, man. So, like you mentioned, a part of your journey is you're at a great high school. I would say career probably doesn't go in high school the way you would have liked it to have gone, right? We all dream of, being the star wideout or, whatever it is. It's like, well, it didn't quite go that way. But yet, you still get some national recognition and you end up going over to Wake Forest. So, talk a little bit about, how you decided to head all the way across country picking Wake Forest out of any school that a person could have possibly attended.
Yeah. There was actually something I saw this morning. It kind of lines up with that, but some people wait for the right doors to open. I'm more of a knock the door down guy.
Yeah,
Sometimes if you want to get noticed, you have to go and knock the door down and pretty much demand a type of respect or type of attention if you really want something bad enough. And so that was kind of the mode I was in. And so I didn't have schools reaching out to me. I kind of had to go to them.
yeah,
And especially going all the way across the country, I wanted a school that I want to get a good degree because at the time specifically, I mean, it was hard enough to play in high school. So the belief that I believed I could play in the NFL, but whether I was going to give an actual opportunity, I was never sure of that.
mm,
Um, so I was like, all right, school's the most important thing. My degree matters.
yeah.
I didn't want to sit in a huge lecture hall, and I didn't want to freeze my butt off either. So I kind of drew a line across the country, and everything south of that was an option. And there was a
Yeah,
couple schools out kind of all in the same area that had that fit, Duke, Vanderbilt, even the one double A's like Furman
yeah.
and Davidson and Wofford and stuff. So we went out there and we had sent film out, and some of these schools showed some type of interest based on my 7-on-7 tape, nothing in pads because I wasn't playing in pads.
Yeah.
Uh, I was on a really good 7-on-7 team because one of my coaches that played defensive coaches at my high school really thought I had some major assets and that he could use it on his team. So it was pretty much me and a bunch of 4-star, 5-stars, and created a lot of film, good tape with it. My dad had a video camera everywhere I went, and turned it into like a little mixtape. And
Yeah.
that's what kind of caught a little bit of traction with these teams, but nothing was like enough to like really get a full scholarship because it wasn't in pads. And these teams, it's all about when it comes to politics. They're
Yeah.
gonna look back at his head coach. He offered you a scholarship. You had no film and pads, and if you didn't turn out very well, it's not gonna look good
Yep.
in the university's eyes.
Yeah.
So I went to Duke. They were talking about walking on. Vanderbilt showed some good interest, but we were driving past Wake, and I hadn't set my film there. There was a friend that had visited Wake or something like my freshman year of high school, and she didn't like it, so I assumed I didn't either. So I scratched it off the list. But my dad's like, "You sure?" And I was like, "You know what? Let's just show up. Like, let's just
Yeah.
go." And so I just showed up on their campus and showed up in their football facility, and they had an intern that had been there for like 1 month come down and give me a full tour of the facility, and he's one of the local scouts now for the New England Patriots. Um, so yeah, he said send your film in, and apparently send this all the time because there's a lot of kids that think they can play,
Yeah.
right? It's a tough story to tell. Like, yeah, I'm kind of getting screwed over this and that because a lot of kids that say that it's just kind of like probably not very good. Everyone
Correct.
wants to be a victim, but it's like actually like no, I can play. Like look at the film. Like I'm
Yeah.
just probably getting an opportunity. And my receiver coach happened to have 5 minutes out of his day. He looked at it. They called me while I was on the way to Wofford, said, "Yo, come back." And so I came back, met the whole staff, and like, we need you to come to camp if we're going to give you any opportunity to earn a scholarship. We want to see it live in
Yeah.
pads. I was like, all right. So I showed to camp. I ran really well. I caught everything, beat every DB that they had given a scholarship to, and then the rest got rained out. And so then I had Vanderbilt the very next day, so I couldn't stick around. So I went to Vanderbilt and I lit that one up too. And I was on the front cover of their like recruiting page after.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh wow, I just went from like no traction to like a couple of schools. And meanwhile, I was finally getting an opportunity going because I was going into my senior. I was finally getting an opportunity to play receiver, and
Hmm.
I was lighting up the 7-on-7 circuit with my school. I had one of my best friends was playing quarterback. He ended up not being the starter. Actually, I had two really good friends that had a quarterback competition. But one of them, I've been over at his house like every day since middle school, and he was finally getting his opportunity to play quarterback.
Yeah.
So he was looking my way. I had like 38 receiving touchdowns in like 11 games of 7-on-7. I was scoring like 3 or 4 every game, and then middle
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So I went from not playing at all to like I was gonna I was ready to shoot for this, strip to the moon.
Yeah.
But I came back from camp and I had like a separation in my shoulder,
Hmm.
and we beat Mater Day, which is a good high school. We beat them in a
Great
7.
school. Yeah.
We beat them in a 7-on-7. I intercepted a ball, separated my shoulder, landed on it.
Yeah.
So the 7-on-7 season was done, and so I didn't tell anybody about it. But then a couple of weeks later, Wake Forest finally offered me, and I committed. And my senior year didn't go that well
Mm.
due to injuries and stuff. And then we had this kid coming in from 8th grade came in to be our quarterback as a freshman, Matt Corral. Um, and he had a great arm. He wasn't really able to really in terms of coverage recognition.
Yeah.
He kind of just throw to Pittman on the left hand side every time. So I didn't really get a lot of targets, but then I had an ankle injury, and that was my whole high school career. I had 13 catches, touchdown, 170 yards or something, 180 yards. And
Yeah.
that was all she wrote for high school.
Yeah.
Not the ideal high school experience. But like I said, I went to college, and then I wasn't going to play much when I first got to college. And for a lot of kids, that's hard. And I was used to that.
Right.
So I had to fight more uphill battles there. And, a couple times almost tried to transfer, try to leave. Things were going my way, but I stuck it out. And that was nothing. At high school, a lot of kids would leave if they didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
kids are transferring everywhere nowadays. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm just glad I didn't take the easy way out.
Right.
Stuck around and just fought through it and found my way, scratched, clawed, and just like I said, knocked enough doors down where it was like they had to give me some type of opportunity.
Yeah. Well, so I want to, kind of highlight a couple of things there. One, I love the, mantra or the idea, be so good you can't be ignored, right? Like you at least have to be giving all your effort and giving them something that's like, hey, we know you're good enough to play. Like we're gonna give you this chance. In the back of your head, I'm sure even though you believed in yourself, showing up at, Wake, showing up at Vanderbilt and putting on an impressive camp, it was like, all right, I did want a little bit of validation from someone else. Like I knew I could do it, but there's that whole new level of confidence that comes when you get the validation. All right, I believed it, but now I was able to show up and show out and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times, and I think this is something that just kind of helped me along the way, is I got rejected by so many different areas in my life growing up
Yeah.
that I had no longer any fear of getting rejected.
Yeah.
I already felt enough. I'd already gotten, used to that to where I was like, what am I so afraid of? Like
Yeah.
I have nothing to lose at
Right.
all. I'm just gonna, go all out and I know what I'm capable of. And like I said earlier, if you just keep going, somebody's eventually going to recognize it. And all you need is one. And it seems that at almost every level, I've managed to just get the one I needed.
Yeah.
And it's kept me around. And I'm still, going on 27, still able to play football, which is a tremendous blessing.
Yeah. Well, and something else that I would say that, stands out about you and your story, and we'll continue to talk about it, but is do what is unrequired even when no one's watching. And it's not because you were doing it so that somebody would see it. It was you were doing it so you'd be prepared for when the moment came, right? So when the opportunity was presented to you, you were prepared. I think so many people don't want to do the unrequired, or they don't want to give max effort unless they know someone's going to see it, or unless they know it's going to give a result. And then all of a sudden they get the opportunity and they're not ready for it. And I think, we get rewarded for what we do when no one's watching, when that opportunity comes and the lights are on.
Well, I mean, for me, I just, like I said, like the no regret mentality. I never
Yeah.
want to be in the middle of a game, preseason, season, whatever, and be, a certain play, certain routes called. And in the back of my head, I'm like, dang, I don't think I trained enough for this specific.
Yeah.
Because like I said, once that doubt creeps in, if you're not sure about it,
Yeah.
I try to prepare so much because everyone talks about, well, preparation, number one, breeds confidence.
Mm.
If
Yeah.
you're in a scenario that you've never been in before, most people aren't going to be comfortable there.
Yeah.
So that's what literally training is. I'm putting my body through extreme discomfort and to a point where I'm in it so long that I'm almost able to thrive in that situation.
Yeah.
And so I'm training my body to become comfortable with the uncomfortable and do things at such a ridiculous rate and make it harder than it needs to be so that when that moment comes, it's almost way easier than it is for everybody else.
Yeah.
And so even in my training, I make everything a competition. And
I
and
love
if you talk to the guys that I train with, I talk a lot. Uh, I
it.
think, and I think that comes from just having a chip on my shoulder because
Yeah.
I look around and I'm like, you guys pretty much had it easy.
Mm, yeah.
Every and a lot of guys are like, oh, these people doubt me. I went second round.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have no idea. I,
Wow.
I scratched and clawed my way to one scholarship offer with no catches,
Yeah.
no combine invite, undrafted, injured. I've been cut several times. I was like,
Yeah.
you have no idea what being doubted even means. If you were
Yeah.
drafted at all, if you had any type of, if you played in high school, it's so that's why I have a chip on my shoulder is because I know I have a firm belief I can do what everyone else can do,
Right.
but I don't have the same people around that everyone else believes it. My trainers believe it. I think my teammates believe it. I just haven't had necessarily like the people in the most powerful positions really believe it for whatever reason. So like I don't sit down when I train.
Yeah.
A lot of guys will be doing this tremendous training process and they'll take a seat, get a rest, and that's too comfortable for me.
Yeah.
So like I said, I like to put myself consistently in uncomfortable situations so that when the season comes around, football is a super uncomfortable sport. So
Yeah.
it's not natural at all by any means. So when that moment comes, it's fourth quarter, and I'm gassed, and there's sweat dripping in my eye, and have I like really prepared for that moment?
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the way I look at it. Is luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So the
Boom.
luckiest people, those are the people that everyone's like, oh, he's lucky. I was like, why?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, because he got an opportunity. Well, I was like, well, yeah, but he also prepared for that opportunity.
That's right.
And a lot of people that don't, and then the opportunity comes and it washes by.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, Michael Jordan says it in the Last Dance series, he goes, "Man, I mean, the game seemed easy because we went so hard at practice, with that 90s squad. It's like, well, if I'm practicing this hard and then the games actually feel easy, like that's the idea, right? Not like, let's coast through, practice and then we'll see what we've got for the game. It's like, no, you want to flip-flop that and make practice super hard. So I love that.
super hard. I think on top of that too, it's like one thing I've learned is if they aren't telling you to slow down, then you're not going hard enough.
Mm,
Kind of in my
yeah.
mantra. They
Yeah.
should be coming into the facility and telling you to go home. They
I
need
love it.
they're telling you like go enjoy your life. Slow down and practice. You're going too fast.
Yeah.
Um, you know, make time for your family, make time for other things. That's what they should be telling you. Not, hey man, I'm gonna need you to get to the facility a little sooner.
Hmm.
I need you to stay a little longer. I'm gonna need you to study a little bit more.
Yeah.
I need you to go a little harder in practice. Those aren't the things I ever want anybody telling me.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and for some people, some of my teammates, they get mad because I'm like, oh, you're going too hard. And I was like, well, if you've ever had the feeling that it might be the last day you ever play football, go experience that feeling and then come back to me and let me know about slowing down. It's kind of the way I put it. And it kind
I
of
love it.
a lot of guys kind of look at like, okay, like fair
Yeah.
enough.
Right.
And like I said, though, I take pride in though and being and having to walk that race or run that race. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if you probably tell, like I have a stack of chips on my shoulder, but I think that's ultimately the thing that's gonna keep me around. Because if
Yeah.
you don't have that, you know, it's gonna be tough to wake up every morning and keep that same motivation to keep pushing. Because
I
like I
love
said,
it.
I'm going into year 5 in the NFL. I've played in 4 games.
Yep.
And even my parents, my biggest supporters, My dad told me, he's like, I would quit 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's like, and I want this for you, more than anyone, but I would have said hang it up 2 years ago. Like
Yeah.
it's not all the sunshine and rainbows journey that people think it is. There's a lot of
Mhm.
battles and but like I said, I'm gonna keep fighting until it's set in stone. I could tell God doesn't want me to pursue
Yeah.
it.
I love it. Now, to wrap up the time in or at Wake Forest and in college before we get to the pros, an injury happens, which makes you one of the prime opportunities at wide receiver. And I believe it's the bowl game where you really just get to have kind of like that show out game where, man, this is the culmination of all of my hard work. And finally, I get the opportunity. And you just have a tremendous game with catches, yards, touchdowns, and ultimately the game. So just talk a little bit about, once again, that game. I mean, by far, statistically speaking, your best probably game in your career.
Yeah, for college, it was statistically. I always say it's like receiver, like in terms of opportunities, like season moment, like receiver, I think more than any other because we don't really get to create our opportunities.
Right.
It can be, and people get, talk about Antonio Brown and, Odell Beckham, and there's a lot of like prima donna that's brought to the receiver position
Yeah.
because these guys act out, but they act out rightfully so because it's really annoying and really frustrating when you're capable of doing something and you're not being given the opportunities for whatever reason. The right
Yeah.
play's not being for you. The quarterback's not looking your way. The offensive line's not protecting to give your quarterback time to give you the ball. He's looking your way on the wrong route concepts against the wrong defense.
Yeah.
So that's why it can be frustrating because you might be Randy Moss, you might be the best player on the field, but if the ball never comes your way, like you're gonna have nothing to show for it.
Right.
So statistically, it was my best game, but I didn't look at it that way. It was just the game that I got the most targets
Yeah.
and got the most opportunities. And even before that, the previous year we played Notre Dame, and a couple injuries had happened, and I was on my way out. I was sneaking into the facility every night to get film to send it to other schools because I wasn't being given any opportunities.
Yeah.
Uh, which I'm sure my coaches hear this, they're like, "Really, you did that?" Like, I was showing out in practice, but like I had to wait for my opportunity, and sometimes it doesn't come as soon as you want it, but
Yeah.
if you wait long enough and you prepare, and so I had a great game against Notre Dame my junior year, and it kind of pushed me into my senior year. But we did have other great receivers at Wake that were getting targets, like you mentioned, and there was injuries that happened that ultimately led to my quarterback looking my way a little bit more. Um, my senior my very last game. It was Jamie Newman too, and he had just kind of gotten his like first real starts like a couple games back. So it was kind of taking him a little bit to trust us in games because in
Yeah.
practice we'd be flying wide open, and it's not all like that in games.
Right.
So sometimes I just tell him, bro, just throw it. Just
Yeah.
I trust me, like I'll go get it, like just throw it. And there's a couple times in that game where he kind of just unleashed it for me, and I was really glad that I was able to cap off my career in that fashion and with a win. And I think it did give me a little momentum, uh, you know, going into the NFL and preparing for
Yeah.
the draft and whatnot.
Yeah. So to your point earlier, not invited to the combine. And I'm sure there's, people in your life that are saying, all right, Alex, so what are you gonna go do now? Now that football and career's over. And you're like, well, I'm gonna get ready for pro day at Wake and just see what I can show. And there's emotions involved with that. There's a ton of training, a ton of preparation, and the draft comes and goes, and names not called, but the Rams end up giving you a call post draft. So talk a little bit about, one, the emotions of all of that, but two, hey, there's a team that's interested after everything I've put out on the field.
It's interesting you say that, and I go back to having that one person kind of believe in you.
Yeah.
My roommates in college will tell you, I'm not sure if I have a videographic memory, so I can like kind of replay any moment I need to replay in my head. But there was conversations that I had after like the fourth or fifth game of my senior year. And I was like, yeah, after this year I'm done. I'm hanging up in cleats. I don't really have a future, and I haven't been given enough. I haven't done enough in college to really get those opportunities. But I made enough plays, and I caught the attention of some agents.
Yeah.
And it took my agent reaching out to me, and apparently he was trying to hit me up on Twitter or something. And my settings, you can't reach me on Twitter unless I follow you.
Got it.
I wasn't hearing it, but one of my former teammates that was kind of like he's like my role model, my father.
Yeah.
When I got to campus, it was his agent. He texted me like, "Yo, he's trying to reach you." I had a conversation with him, and it was the first time I was like, "Oh, really? Like, you think I actually have the tools to? Well, not just the tools, but you think I've done enough to actually be given an opportunity?" And so I signed with him actually the night before my bowl game, and then I
Wow.
went berserk in the bowl game. And that being said, I wanted to train though at this facility right by my house, the Mamba Sports Academy. At the time, was Kobe Bryant's facility before he passed,
Yeah.
and they had all the facility and tools that you needed, but it was expensive.
Mm.
And so normally agents pay for that. Um, my agent was going to pay that amount of money for me, so I paid for it myself.
Wow.
I drove Uber when I was in college. Um, I wasn't really interested in going out, but I was the guy that everyone texted if they needed a ride to the party. So I was like, I might as well make some money on this.
Yeah.
Say that money. I saved up money Uber driving. I did, like I said earlier, I did singing jobs when I was little. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a smaller percentage of my career long earnings if I pay for uh my combine training. And we made that deal and we did that. So I spent a good amount of money on that, but I got everything I needed out of it. And
Mm.
I probably was the most locked in focus that I've ever been. I mean, I was there. I woke up 6 a.m. every morning, grab a quick protein bar, get to the facility by 6:30, and we don't start till 8:30 or 9. And sorry, I keep getting these texts. But yeah, so I'd get there, I would do my 40 starts. I would do like 50, 40 starts, or just focus on my first 3 steps.
Yeah.
And I would catch, 500, 700 balls on the jugs. And then I'll grab a protein shake, I'll grab a breakfast sandwich, hit the facility. We'd start our training at like 8:39, do some speed training, run routes, get lunch. Everybody else is on a meal plan. I was eating everything I possibly could, so it didn't matter because I was burning through
Yeah.
all of it. And yeah, we were there from till like 5 o'clock at night, and then or we get out like 4, but I'd stay around till like 5:30, do a bunch of different recovery stuff, focus on anything else I think I need work on. And then I was living with my family, so I went back. I had dinner prepared by my mom, stretching routine. I'd watch the one episode of The Office. And I'd go to bed by 9:30, and I'd do the same thing for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it was just like I was so locked in. I've never been that locked in before, but I was like, this is my once in a lifetime opportunity. This is my job,
Right.
and no regrets.
Yeah.
And I shut the pro day, and I dominated. And I knew that this time I knew the opportunity was going to come, and so
Yeah.
my preparation was gonna preparation opportunity was going to give me a chance to get lucky. And, I had a lot of teams talk to me after, because I think they always look at your potential.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the combine's important, what numbers you put up.
Yeah.
'Cause this guy's athletic. We can do something with this.
Yeah.
And I think that's literally the only reason that I got an opportunity to play was because I ran a fast 40. I jumped well, and I caught everything. And I think they saw potential in me, and you know, still one of the best days I think of my life was just getting a call to play for a team right down the street from where I grew up.
Absolutely. Now, the time with the Rams is not the long-lived time frame that is. After the Rams, we transitioned to the Giants, and talk a little bit about starting to see the business aspect of sports, right? I think, when you're not in it, everyone's like, man, that's so cool. You play pro football. But like you said earlier, it's like, yeah, but you're not seeing the other side of it, right? Like, hey, unless you're the guy with the, max contract, you can be disposable in a relatively quick manner if you're not, the right position, or if a guy gets injured at a different position, it's time for you to go because you're just no longer a necessity. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, I got hurt with the Rams, and then I got picked up midway with the Giants. And when I got picked up, I was just happy to play ball again. Because I mean, if you're going
Absolutely.
undrafted and you get hurt in preseason, most guys are done.
Yep.
So just to have another opportunity to play, I was excited about that. And so it was more so that I kind of used it as a redshirt year.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be my redshirt year. I've had a couple redshirt years. Um, so then the next year, that's when COVID hit, right? Yeah, that's when COVID
Yeah.
hit. And that was frustrating because I had a great camp and I
Yeah.
had a tremendous camp, but no one got to see it. It was like then the teams knew that they could just hide guys because
Right.
it wasn't being broadcasted. And so um I got I got released at the end of that camp. And when they released me, my receiver coach told me, "Hey, you had the most targets and the most catches of any receiver in our camp."
Yeah.
And I did it with way less plays. I'll get like a third of the snaps to some of the other guys. And I got the most catches and most targets. So if I had the most targets and most catches, you're telling me I outperformed everybody, and
Right.
you're trying to play the best players, then why am I getting cut? You know,
Right.
that's the sad reality of what it is.
Yeah.
Um, they have money in other guys, and that's when they say the NFL is a business. They mean it's a business in terms of they advertise it's about winning, but just like
Mhm.
every business, it's not really about the product; it's about making money.
Yeah.
Um, so as long as the league's making money, they're happy. And so I got invited back to P Squad. I got released. So I was supposed to play week 1 though because we had a hamstring injury, and I was supposed to play, and I was the only one that knew every position, and I knew his position.
Yeah.
So I had to tutor another guy that potentially was going to play in that position for 2 hours after every practice,
Oh man.
and I wasn't getting paid for that. I'm like,
Right. Right.
you know, preparing our team, and I stayed in the hotel the night before, and we had 4 other receivers on P Squad with me, and I was the only one that stayed in the hotel the night before. And we lose that game, and then they cut me the next day from P Squad,
Hmm.
and then I'm gone for 3 weeks, and then they bring me back. And in that span, all those other 4 receivers, they're still there. And then I'm the first one elevated to the active roster. So I'm like, why did I get released? Like, why
Right.
did I release somebody else? So like, there's just a lot of confusing stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
But I stuck around the rest of the year there, and then yeah, then the following year, I didn't have a great camp, and then I got released, and that's when I was a little worried. I was like, dang, I don't think I wasn't sure if I put my best foot forward.
Yeah.
And then, I got a job as I killed this interview as a waiter at this really nice steakhouse. And I think I had no experience as a waiter, and we used to hiring anybody that had no experience. In fact, needed 10 years. I
Yeah.
talked my way into it. Like I said, I knocked the door down. I was like, look, I'm the 1% of the 1%. I've proven that in my career field. And he offered me the job. And then that Tuesday, I was supposed to start work. I got a call to go back to New York. So I go back to New York, finish out the rest of the year there. I get 3 games on active. And at the end of the very last game of the year, I start at punt and kick returner.
Yeah.
Um, I got a few opportunities, and I actually finished with my average based on how I performed. I had the 4th best punt return average of everybody in the
Let's
entire.
go.
So I got a call that from my agent, like, hey, New York really likes you. They want to bring you back.
Right.
I was like, we've had this conversation a couple years already, and they keep trying to bring me back. Like, am I really going to get an opportunity?
Yep.
Yeah, they see you doing this, they see you doing this, and like, you're really going to get an opportunity. I was like, all right, if I'm really going to get an opportunity, all right. So then we come to camp this last year, and through OTAs and camp, I have literally a perfect camp. Like I don't think anyone will be able to mimic it ever again. I caught everything they threw at me. I won every route I could. I was beating our starters. I was catching a touchdown almost every day in practice. My last catch ever in practice, or my last play ever in practice, was a touchdown. Um, I set a franchise record. I had 11 catches in one half in a preseason game.
Yeah.
I was on my way to catching 20 balls that game if I played the whole game. Um, I just I literally did everything I possibly could to make a team, and then I still get cut. And that was one of those things where I'm like, so if I did everything right and I still got cut, I think I actually changed my mindset. Like, why would I ever be scared of doing anything wrong? If I can do everything right and still lose my job,
Right.
why am I scared of ever messing up?
Yeah.
And so that was a frustrating experience, but that was another experience I'm super thankful for, because it got me to Houston, which has been great. And it's close to home, and I'm really excited for that opportunity. And but yeah, I just took that, and I finally got an opportunity with Houston midseason again, and I had zero care at all of playing. I had zero care. I mean, like it was just like I just wanted to practice. Like that's all I cared
Yeah.
about. Just enjoy practice. I'm gonna enjoy every single opportunity to run around and catch footballs, and just I don't care if they promote me. I don't care how much real, I guess, money they're paying me a P squad check, but like
Yeah.
I wasn't attached to any of that. I'm like I was going back to age 8 years old when I signed up to play football, and having that inner joy. Because I'm like, if this is gonna be my last day ever playing, like I want to look back and say that I enjoyed it. This is my dream, right?
Yep.
So if I finally get to my dream and I hate it, like I want it to be, at least I have some good memories of
I
my,
love it.
my time in the league, because it's not gonna last forever.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like it made everything just more enjoyable. Not being attached to any outcomes, but instead just taking pride in the things that were actually in my hands. And like I said, going back to the beginning, like having the right attitude and right mindset can really change the outcome of everything else.
You betcha. Well, and the thing that I love about what you're talking about is at the end of the day, to your point, the making the roster, getting the opportunity in the game. I mean, whatever it is, those are great moments. But if that's all you were ever doing it for, you probably would have ended football long, long ago, right? It was your passion and your competitive nature and all those things that it was like, I'm going to show up every day and do it regardless. And because you've done that, you've been able to reach this level that, once again, not many people ever get the opportunity to be in. And so it's probably, there's days where you say, gosh, I wish I was that guy, like that'd be a really cool thing. And at the same token, realizing like, yeah, you're in the 0.1%, or I mean, maybe even less of, anyone that plays football in the opportunity that you have today.
Yeah, I think one thing that's kept me going is that how can I tell someone else to like never give up on it if I give up on it? Like
Yeah.
being a hypocrite is just not something I've ever wanted to be. And um, I didn't want to sell anybody short. There's a lot of people, including my parents or coaches, even Wake, that gave me an opportunity and put their time and invested their energy in me. And I didn't want to sell anybody short.
Yeah.
I wanted to prove my believers right. And I'm still trying to do that every
Yeah.
day. And like I said, I'm just trying to squeeze the orange. I'm trying to squeeze the juice out of everything
I
I can
love
get
it.
out of, these opportunities.
Yes.
So um, we'll see what happens. But I'm just excited. I'm thankful, and through everything that I've had to go through, I'm not, like I said, I don't really feel like there's a lot that can break me, because I've just been able to continue to peaks and valleys, continue to climb, and and then sometimes you get hit in the mouth and you just find a way to bounce back. But yeah,
I
so
love it. I love it. Well, Alex, I want to say thank you for sharing your story and just, pivotal moments that have led to where you're at. And there's no doubt the story still has a lot to be written in it. And, I think one of the things I would just give you encouragement on, not that you need it, but it's just that the person that you've become in, your pursuit of football is such a transferable skill. I hear you say, hey, I got this job that usually you have to have 10 years of experience. I was able to get in. It's like, Well, yeah, it wasn't because you had the 10 years of experience. It's because you had all the characteristics and qualities of somebody that is going to excel in that. And so, as you continue to do your football thing, regardless of how many more years it goes, you will be a successful human because of all the skills and talents that you've developed in your pursuit of the football, dream, if you will.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. Yeah.
You betcha, stud. Well, hey, excited to continue to follow your journey. Good luck as OTAs get started up here, man, and we'll be following the journey.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see what comes by. I'm excited.